Hello, everyone. We are alive. You are alive with Joan and Alan out of this world for another exciting event, this time with Suzanne Ross and Michael Jaco, as we really discuss all these tools of spiritual awakening, ascension, consciousness, and more. So I'm your host, Joan of Angels, also sponsored by Portal to Ascension, just to let you all know. I'm an intuitive guide, transformational coach, and I love broadcasting and introducing speakers. And I am here with my co-host, Alan Steinfeld of New Realities.
Thank you, Joan. I think this is the fourth or fifth out of this world we're doing, and it keeps getting better and better. We go deeper and deeper, and we learn to understand each other. We intuit, and we can really go into this world and out of this world at the same time. And of course, we are coming together for today to help support Suzanne Ross's amazing upcoming Ascension Retreat in Sedona, happening March 17th to the 19th, 2023. And we're going to bring on a special guest after. Let's bring on Suzanne, because she is why we're all here. Suzanne,
Hello, Suzanne.
You're always so full of energy, and you're so committed to raising consciousness. Give us a little background about the conference coming up.
Oh, thank you, Alan. This is my 15th event that I've done in Sedona, and they just keep getting bigger. And this one is bigger and better than ever. We have incredible keynote speakers, workshops, spiritual journeys out on the land, lots of vendors and food vendors, and of course, an amazing cast, including our special guest today, Michael Jaco. And yesterday, we spoke with Billy Carson, and there's going to be Matt Kahn and Paul Selig and William Henry, so much more. Just visit the website at SedonaAscensionRetreats.com to check out all the speakers. We're also having an Ascension stage that features many speakers as well. And so we're just very excited about this event being held at the Sedona Performing Arts Center. We'll also have musical performances and an exciting George Norrie live show.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be great. These are the all-stars of our team, as I say, and these are the ones that are really making a shift in consciousness, leading the way, including me and Joan and you and Neil Gar will be there. So I think it's going to be a fantastic weekend. Sign up right there, SedonaAscensionRetreats.com. It's in a huge auditorium, but it could be sold out. So you want to sign up soon. Get your tickets and get your workshops too that are being sponsored there.
Just want to mention, I'm going to be bringing my art out, and both Alan and I are speaking there too. And so that's even more exciting for all of us. So I want to hear about Michael Jaco. I heard him last year at the conference. I had a great opportunity to meet him. I've been following him, and I think he's an amazing intuitive guide and spiritual master. So I want to hear about him now.
It's up to you, Suzanne, to introduce him.
Oh, is he going to come on the screen? Okay.
Okay, well, come on.
Sorry, I was waiting for him to join us on the screen. Okay, I'll get the hang of this. This is just my second time.
Okay.
Yes, Michael Jaco is a former Navy SEAL and CIA operative. He saved his lives and the lives of his other Navy Team 6 members. He was also responsible for tracking Noriega and Saddam Hussein. He used his powerful intuitive abilities in combat and even after as a CIA operative. And now he has dedicated his life to teaching others how they too can develop their intuitive gifts, skills, and abilities. I want to congratulate you, Michael, on your brand new book, Intuitive Warrior, Lessons from a Navy SEAL on Unleashing Your Hidden Potential. I've been reading it. I love it. Everyone needs to read this book. Thank you so much for writing it.
Well, thanks so much. Yeah, it was a great opportunity to have the experience to bring that information through. A lot of the stuff that I did within the SEAL teams and the CIA basically helped activate my intuition to a great level. All of us have it within us, and a lot of people have it suppressed. We all of us here at the Sedona Ascension Retreats are going to help people to activate that to a greater level. Even if you've already activated, you can take it to new levels. I'm always activating new potential, new abilities within my intuitive, realm of consciousness. So that's the beauty of, jumping in and being around people that are of like mind, and being around people that are, helping us extend our consciousness.
Michael, I'm really interested in your story and your that transformation where you go from you join the military, you're working hard and work and doing, and then suddenly, I don't know, but suddenly I want to know, how do you get to this other level where you're devoting it to people as opposed to against,
Yeah, I think that, all of us, develop ourselves to a certain point and get us, and we're at the place where we can, unleash this information, as I call it, unleashing your intuition. So while I was in the SEAL teams, I'm pushing my, extrasensory abilities, because you want to remain silent and quiet and visible. So I could see people that were having these abilities, to know things that were coming. Some of the Vietnam vets that I worked with in the beginning of my career, just had these super sensory abilities way beyond what they're capable of on the physical level. So many of us were like, well, we want to develop those too. How do you do that? Well, over time, a lot of times just spontaneously come through. So when the student is ready, then, the teacher appears type thing. It's the same thing with these abilities. And that's why you definitely want to come to, these types of retreats where you are around people that help you activate that. So for me, the warrior skills, I developed to a great level. I went through sweat lodges. I went through Native American spirituality. I did Vision Quest. And I think that really helped prepare me more than anything else to go into these realms. And like you, Alan, I became a remote viewer, and I was able to start to play with those skills. At first, it was very simple, just looking down a trail that I hadn't been down before, and then meditating on it, and then going down the trail. And it's like, wow, I saw all this stuff in my meditation. So I just started doing it real time with, on a bike path, where am I going to see the next, person on the bike path? So I got 100% on that. And then eventually I started using it in combat zones. So I would send my consciousness out on the road before we went down. And if I saw something, an anomaly that was probably going to be an attack or a bomb or something like that, I would hold my team up. And unfortunately, someone else would get that attack. And then once it was cleared, then I would look again. It's like, okay, we can roll. So I started playing with it on that level, and it started to go to different levels. I could see into time, in the future. So it was real time, then future time. It was a couple days, then it ended up to be a week and a month ahead of time. I could see things coming, warn my teams, and they, the things that I was seeing, happened just as I described them. But the biggest thing that happened to me was when I was in Iraq, and it was shortly after we captured Saddam Hussein. So interestingly, I was in a sweat lodge, and we prayed that and we're kind of like laughing about it. Just before I went to Iraq, I was like, somebody's like, what are we going to pray for? And somebody said, let's pray that when Mike gets into Iraq, they find Saddam Hussein. So that literally the moment that I landed in Iraq is when they found Saddam Hussein, and they brought him up. So you get these little anomalies that start to happen. You're like, wow, this stuff is real. These meditation practices and these prayers and stuff like that, when you do them in a certain frame of mind, intuitive mindset, as I call it, then you can really start to tap into some great stuff. So while I'm in Iraq, there was things started to unwind. There were lots of attacks. I knew the attacks were coming. I just knew it intuitively. One night I woke up and I'm floating out of my body, and I'm like, I've always wanted to have one of these out-of-body experiences. So I always heard that you look down at your body to kind of get that, connection. So I looked down, and my body was in pieces. I've been blown up. So I was like, I'm not having an out-of-body experience. I'm dead. I'm out of body like forever. So I was like, that's such a bummer, because, I feel like I'm really starting to tap into these abilities, that really can help humanity. And then I felt this presence. I looked up, and there's Archangel Michael, and I felt he looked into my eyes, and this love energy just into my body. And then I felt myself transported back in time, back into my body. And then I heard this massive explosion in the distance. So I was like, that angel, because I didn't even know it was Archangel Michael at the time. I did the research and figured it out. So that angel like saved my life and put me back. It's like, that was. And so from that point on, I started my abilities went to a crazy level. There was one time I was driving down the road with my team. Now we had armored cars, so you think you're kind of invulnerable to a certain extent, but we're seeing tanks that are getting blown up. So you understand that, you know, the enemy has abilities, so you have to really be on top of your game. So I've been, you know, months after month after month, you know, really using my intuitive abilities and keeping everybody safe. So we're rolling out the gates of what we call the green zone, the safe zone, where all the you know, militaries locked everything down. There's guards everywhere. There's huge gates. There's tanks. There's everything. So you're safe in the green zone. And then the red zone when you leave that. So there's all these attacks in this one road. It's called Qadisha Highway in Iraq. So I just realized as we're rolling out the gate that I hadn't done the remote view, because I always do the remote view first before we go. And then if I see something hinky, then I just hold everybody up and just make excuses. But some guys are starting to realize I had these abilities, but I hadn't done it because I was just like, I got in the car. It's like, okay, let's go. And I'm like zoning out, you know, I'm not really doing my thing. And then I get that we're in a kill zone right then. And I'm about to die. So I'm like, oh my God. So I got kind of like that same thought that I got from Archangel Michael. I got the love energy that he sent to me. And I got in my head, send that love energy out as if every cell in your body is sending it out. I'm like, what? And I got, do it now. It's like, okay. So good military guy that I am, you know, I started sending the love vibration out. And then the feeling that we were about to die started to dissipate and dissipate and dissipate. And then it was gone. I was like, wow, what was that? So we got back to our other compound, another safe zone, and we heard that a group that had come out right after us, one of our teams, they got hit by a rocket propelled grenade and blew their truck up. All those guys got seriously injured. The truck was crazy destroyed. That would have happened to us if I hadn't sent out that love vibration. So I started to really use that love vibration from that point on. It's like, you know, did I really do that? And then I started to play with it, just like I did the remote viewing. And then it was like I would go into a combat zone that had been every single day. There was like attacks, you know, hundreds of people dying in some of these cities. So I would come into the city, and just like I'd done that bubble of love, sending out that love energy, and that rocket attack that didn't happen because I sent the love out. I was like, well, why don't I do that for a whole city? And so I started to send out a bubble of love around the city, and I would think about that bubble of love. I really power it up, and then throughout the day or whenever it came to me, it's time to send out that love energy again. I would just keep doing it. While I was in cities, there were no attacks. When I would leave a city, the attacks would happen again. So it's kind of evolved over time. I started getting to the point where I would send that energy to other people as well that I knew they were coming to do attacks. And that's how I started to influence. And I call it, you send love energy to someone that is evil, and they have the option of either going with the light or becoming vulnerable, because you're sending that love energy, they become vulnerable. And a lot of times when I did that to terrorists that were hunting, all the ones that I was involved with, they eventually died. So they didn't like the light. They didn't like the love light. But when you send that love energy to them, like I said, it made them vulnerable. I did that with countless, dozens of terrorists that we were hunting. As the CIA case officers were doing information gathering, I started to focus on them, and I started sending them love. And within a short period of time, they were gone. So yeah, these abilities, exist within us. I've developed other abilities, but that was really the transition, Alan, where I made that Archangel Michael experience.
That's great.
it's so interesting to hear, you know, you're both a spiritual warrior and a physical military warrior.
Mhm.
And sometimes in our community, people don't blend the two. They don't associate being a real warrior and spiritual warrior. Somehow they're spiritual. So I want to address that. And then I want to address this, you know, love, using love as a military, you know, weapon in a sense can change everything. And I just would like you to address this. And
Yeah,
also
The love warrior.
the angels on the military battlefield. All
yeah,
right.
that's beautiful, Joan of Angels. So you know that Archangel Michael has a sword, and he defeats, the devil. So that's kind of the way I am. I'm like an angel of light defeating the demonic realms. Because when I look at some of these terrorists or some of these figures that are seemingly causing us problems, I'll I'll look at them, in the etheric realm, and if they're clean, then it's like, well, there's just an anomaly there. They're not really bad. But if I look at them and they have a demonic presence on them, a lot of times, like I did all those terrorists I took out, I'm like, okay, they're bad. But they, like I said, they have the option to go good. So I was sending them love for a long time, but now what I do is I go in and I go to battle with a demon. Now I tried to do that in the beginning and it didn't work out too good for me. But over time, I got more confidence, got abilities. I got the armor of God on me. In one instance where I kind of I was sending love to a demonic entity, and it came at me, and it's like I just automatically armored up, and I was like, wow, I got that now. So spontaneously these things will happen, but you can actually use me and other people that talk about it, armor up with the armor of God. So you visualize that, and it definitely protects you. So all of us, we're basically warriors of light. We've all been impacted by, in different ways. Anyone that's in this realm will tell you, unbelievable, attacks that we have, whether it's physical, a lot of times that happens, or whether it's monetarily, or whether it's, through me. I'm on my 11th YouTube channel. So it comes in a lot of different ways. It's frustrating, but we're warriors. We're warriors of light, and we're going to battle. We will win. This is the most amazing time in history for hundreds, probably thousands of years from this point right now. People will look back on all of us that are in this battle and go, "Wow, they did an amazing job back then. What incredible things they did. Standing up to this darkness and winning for the light, and we're beneficiaries of that great battle that they went through. So it's pretty impressive what we're going through.
Yeah, I agree. This is an amazing time. That's why Suzanne has put together this incredible cat. No, I really think so, Suzanne, because
Absolutely.
you're tuning into the collective, and these are the people leading the next level of conscious awakening. So you want to talk about that a little bit, Suzanne, and ask Michael?
Thank you so much for mentioning that. Yes, I have felt called for the last 10 years. I had my first event in 2012. Launching my first book, Wake Up. And I didn't want to be the only one on stage promoting my book. So I started to network with other authors and speakers and spiritual practitioners who also, were offering ways to raise the love light vibration. And so since then, I have had many different events in California, now here in Sedona. And I just feel so blessed that incredible people like Michael Jaco, yourself, Joan, say yes to being part of it. Michael Jaco will be offering a past lives workshop during the event. And in your book, Michael, you talk about past lives that you've had, the influence they've had on your life now, and the transmigration of souls. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and that's kind of like the progression, I believe. There's a niche of us that basically transition into the intuitive realm, and then beyond that, there's another niche that goes into the past life understanding. So most people are under the impression that we just come here for a little period of time, we're here, and then we're out. It's like that's all there is. But you have most people will admit they just have these abilities in certain areas. For me, it was like being a warrior. Warrior was just so natural, and what I was guided to. I started the Navy SEALs first hand-to-hand program. I learned from past lifetimes that I was a samurai, and had studied a lot of the martial hand-to-hand skills throughout time. So it was so easy for me. I was like, this is so easy. There's no way that I couldn't have learned this at some point. So when I was a little boy, I had learned about past lifetimes and really believed in them. After seeing the movie Patton, where he talks about how he's at this one battle in the past, and when he was fighting Rome, he was a Carthaginian general, and I was like, I believe in that. So I started doing the research, started reading the books. Eventually, I started to go to psychics, and this was later in my life. Around 40, about the time frame I'm getting ready to make a transition out of the SEAL teams and into this more spiritual consciousness that I got into. So I really didn't have the time. I was doing the warrior skills, very physical warrior skills, and then I started to make that transition. So that led me to eventually, do the study, the research into past lifetimes. So psychics told me that I was, and this is one thing that I'd done the research on the Battle of Gettysburg. So I'd been to the battlefield, research on that time frame, and I'm like, wow, I really feel that I was here, and I feel that I was a Confederate general. And eventually, I did research, and this one person guided me to find out that I was Louis Armistead. So that was like the first lifetime where I actually found someone that I could actually see, and the facial features. I did the research on what he believed in. Everything matched perfectly. It was unbelievable. I remember my wife was like, because I was doing the research for well over a year, probably 2 years. And I was trying to find who I was in that time frame. And so she's like, so you're a general? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, show me the pictures of the generals that were there at Gettysburg. And she's looking at them. She's like, she gets to a picture that I had when I was going overseas. I had to have these passport pictures when I went into embassies and stuff like that. So I had a picture of me with a beard at the time, because being in the Middle East, it's good to have a beard. So she took that picture, and she's looking. She's like, boom, there you are. And it was right by Louis Armistead. I'm like, wow, that is me. So I was like, wow, that is amazing. So from that point on, it just started to build. And I found upwards of 100 people throughout history, that have that physical similarity, or they have the same mannerisms, they have the same outlook, they have the same warrior skill set, and it's just matched throughout time. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, they say there's always a similar look in the eyes as you incarnate into different forms. But if you look at the big picture, Michael, we're coming down to the wire here, but do you see a time where war and all the battles and all doesn't have to exist, because it's gone on for 20, 30,000 years? So what do you see coming?
I totally see peace. There's no question about it. There'll be a transition, of course, and it'll start to filter out. Remember when a lot of us were locked down during that one, over the last 2 years?
Yeah,
there was no wars, there was no terrorist attacks. So someone is fomenting this, and I think that that group that's fomenting this is on their last legs, and that's one of the things that we do as far as being consciousness revealers, and helping people to find their consciousness. Once you make that transition, you start to see through all that. When I was in war, when I was in battle, and I saw the horror of it, I was like, no one should do this ever again. And but it continues, of course. But I have my experiences, and a lot of people have that bravado. They think that war is romantic or something. It's absolutely horrific beyond belief. So more people, I think, are starting to make that transition. I don't see the types of war coming like we've seen in the past. I think the ones that are trying to be fomented right now with maybe some kind of nuclear activity, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Many of us have seen for a long time
Mm.
that the nukes were done. There were not going to be any more nukes going forward. It's not going to be allowed,
Sure.
you know, in a higher consciousness realm, even beyond our Earth domain. You know, we have intelligent sources that are around us that are getting more and more involved as we raise our consciousness. So
Great.
that's another
So,
exciting thing going on as far as like the consciousness expansion.
you
Great.
know, I
The last
caught your
graduation.
show. I'm sorry. I caught your show with Ishmael Perez the other day.
Mhm.
And, you know, he talks a lot about the solar flare coming and this instantaneous transformation of our society. But I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on this, you know, this coming solar flare and the shift into awakening to our abilities, and when you think we might see that kind of shift, because that is part of our ascension work.
Yeah, I still see us. I see in March, which is phenomenal that Suzanne is
Okay.
having that conference in March. So I've seen in the latter part of March, we start to see some clearing. So in January, sometime there's some kind of transition that's going to be happening. There's going to be a lot of like anytime you make a transition, there's people they don't understand it. They're fearful of change, but I think a lot of people are ready for change. They just don't know what that's going to look like going forward, and that kind of a little bit of fear going on for that, unfortunately. But for me, I'm like, let's bring it. You know, I adapt very easily, very quickly, and so I see, you know, in the March timeframe, a massive transition in consciousness. It's great we're having this conference. I love it. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved with it, because I felt that was coming. Because there's not a lot that I'm getting involved with right now. A lot of people that are in this consciousness realm are feeling the same thing. So something massive, major change is coming, and it's going to be, you know, a little upsetting for a lot of people. So further out from March, I see, you know, for the next couple of years at least, you know, there's still transitional type things that are happening. People will take time to wake up, but it will start to happen on a faster and faster basis. I think that 90% of people pretty much are going to be on board with the transitioning phase that we're going to go through. And then, you know, further out as things get cleaned up in, you know, there's lots of things that we've cleaned up because I've chased after bad people for a long time. It takes a while to clean them, you know, get them you know, caught and brought to justice and so forth. So I think there's going to be a lot of that going on for a
I
while.
need to interrupt for a second. There's a weird sound. One of us has a weird sound.
I don't hear it on my end, actually, but
It's kind of
I
like a
don't hear it.
gurgling, but it stopped. It
Okay.
just stopped.
But I was going to ask Michael that question from Rachel Rose in the chat
Mhm.
there about how you deal with all the intense, I mean, war and
Trauma.
what people see is probably the most traumatic thing you can put the human experience through. How did you deal with that, and how do you transmute it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and hello to everyone in the chat. That's a very nice chat going on there. But yeah, the easy part is, you know, being in that fearful stage of, you know, maybe you don't know what's coming, so you're fearful about that. Now, with me, what I learned to do very early on, as a young guy going through SEAL training, I learned to just relax through difficult situations. So I go into a relaxation mode. Now, once I'm in that relaxation, maybe there's some kind of echo coming from my end. Sounds like. So when I go in that relaxation mode, it's a lot easier for me to get intuitive information. So if you're not relaxed, you're in fear. Intuition is not coming for you. It's blocked. So if you're anger, fear, or the lower states of consciousness, kind of like the muscle testing that's been done in the past by what's that one guy that was right there in Sedona, very, very famous guy. I can't think of his name right now, but he basically talked about how muscle testing, you know, would tell, you know, what's going on. So I do a lot of muscle testing. I've done it in the Suzanne show last year. Lots of fun, lots of good stuff. It's going to be amazing. So staying in that love vibration. So when I feel, tension or anything like that, I just think love. And once I'm thinking love, then it's done. It's all over. I don't have any doubts. I don't have any, anxiety, any fears or anything like that.
Wow.
Michael, you also take very good care of yourself physically through your health, wellness, and fitness. I just wanted to recognize you for what you do, not just to support people by helping them develop their intuitional abilities, but how you truly are a master training specialist. And you offer people health advice as well as some supplements. I think I saw a video of you talking about LifeWave products. And I was like, sign me up. How can we get LifeWave products? So I wanted to recognize you for also supporting us in our health and wellness.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm always pushing the envelope on that. It's a lot of fun to discover new things. The LifeWave products have been amazing. Stem cell research, basically our own bodies, as we age, start to reduce the stem cell that we have, like 60% decrease when you're age 60 and then beyond. So the light wave basically stimulates that through natural, just little patches, has copper peptides in it. So your body's abilities or your radiation from your light, we're all light beings. So the light that comes out of your body basically activates the copper peptides and activates the stem cell within you. So naturally. And so I've been using it for a long time. It's quite phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, making sure you get enough protein in your body for if you're exercising or not. A lot of us don't get the right kinds of protein. Too many carbs, so just learning how to balance that. I go through transition phases where I bulk up and then I lean way down and do bodybuilding contests. So I do have a lot of insight on that. But yeah, thank you very much. It is a great time to really work on yourself, not just your consciousness, but also your body. So you need your temple to be in good standing so that you can take your consciousness to new levels. If you're fighting constantly, you're in pain, that's definitely going to decrease your ability to go into these consciousness states as well. Good point.
Hey, Michael, I want to just get back to where you're in the war zone. You're feeling this love, which is just what a contrast. But did you ever feel like you wanted to share that with the rest of the army, with the rest of the, military, or is that too weird? Would they think you're too strange?
No, there was guys that have been around for a while started to get that, and we would actually tell people that would come into our groups, because the groups that I was in were the creme de la creme. Lots of background, special forces background. You had to have at least 8 years minimum, but there were some of us that had extensive experience. Like I had SEAL Team 6, which is like the creme de la creme of the SEAL team. So I took that, abilities, that knowledge, that education that comes through hard work and a lot of pain and suffering sometimes, and applied it to my spiritual side. So guys were starting to notice that. And some guys would ask me, especially when I came out with some of my books, they would ask me about certain questions about things that were in the books and so forth. And I would educate them. So, but not everybody. Some people would, like when I said, stay off this road on this day at this time, there's going to be an explosion. Some guys are looking at me like really weird. And, Alan, I know you've gone through this as well. Yeah. So I'm seeing this stuff, got to be careful here. Otherwise you might get blown up. So, yeah. And guys are like, looking at me like weird, and okay. And, once they started to see that my predictions and my remote viewing was accurate, they listened. Now, some people, with their deep religious backgrounds, unfortunately, would be like, I don't believe in what you're doing, but if you see something, let me know. I'm like, okay, I can work with that. That's fine. So at least you're not getting me kicked out of here because you think I'm a freak or something. So I think a lot of guys were like that. So we would get guys in over time. So I'm working with the CIA for well over a decade. We were getting really good groups of guys together. We all kind of thought in the same way. We trusted our instincts. We trusted our gut feelings. We trusted our intuition, because people actually started to talk about that because I brought it up. So people were starting to talk. So we would get a guy in that was like, I can't wait to get in a fight, all macho bravado stuff, and I want to blow those guys away. And we're like, hey, you can't talk like that around us, otherwise you're going to leave. So some of those guys left, and we would find out later those guys were killed in combat. So all of the guys that really had that anger issue. So that's why it's very, very important. Not only so you tap your intuition, but you will attract. And we started to notice that guys that were attracting anger, fear, and stuff like that. Almost all those guys that I saw that were if they were there for any length of time, they would be killed. And so we would allow guys around us that had that kind of mentality. Of course, you still have to have that fighting spirit, but you had to be very pretty much intuitive. So guys were tapping into it. There was a time when I was in, I would go to CIA base camps, and if they knew that I had these abilities, they would ask me to teach so that they could expand their abilities. So it was being accepted, not always, but it was making inroads, and that gave me the impetus to go further, step aside from that, and then start to teach more and do the courses that I've done and doing these amazing shows that Suzanne has. So it's basically that type of process. I think everyone eventually gravitates to, as far as learning from other people that have had these abilities. So I thought that I'm just going to be attracting guys, warrior guys, like police officers, firefighters, and of course military guys. But it ended up 60% of the people that I work with are attracted to my work are women. So and at first I was like, why is that? That's weird. And then I was like, oh, duh. Women are intuitive. They know that that's part of their nature. They're easy with that. Now, guys, we have to have that tough analytical process. So it's a little tougher for guys to work through that. But I'm seeing a lot more guys now. I would go to shows, and you guys are probably seeing it as well, because I've been doing this for decades now. I would be the only guy sometimes at some of these shows, and then eventually over the years, I started to see a couple other guys, and now it's pretty close to half. Half the shows are guys now. So it's really come a long way, and I look forward to it to continue that process.
That kind of makes sense to me. What strikes me as amazing? You were creating a vortex of very high vibrational frequency at the love level, which is, we know, the highest vibrational frequency around. And from that, you created a net of safety. All of you were required to keep that vibration high. But I think this is such a learning lesson. Like when we come together at the Ascension Retreat, as we bring the vibrational nothing lower frequency can penetrate that, is what you're saying. And you were in the military as a test case to actually prove the power of these vibrational frequencies and what Ascension tools can do.
Oh, that's brilliant, Joan.
Right?
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And that's true. When I look back on it, I was like, yeah, I went through that early stage, that early process. And I used to think that, hey, I'm a king of the hill being part of this. And then I saw my death. And I was like, it's gone that easily, so I'm the tough guy, and now I'm gone. Boom. But then once I went into the love frequency vibrational consciousness, I've been in far worse environments where they were like, send in Mike. So no one else would go, but they knew that somehow I could go in there and turn things around. They didn't know what was going on. But if they had a very difficult situation where everyone's leaving because it's too hot, they would send me in, and it would turn around, and then they'd start sending people back in again. I did that over and over. It's because of that vibration that you're talking about, vortexual vibration. And that's what Sedona has. Sedona has that vortexual vibrational field. So I remember living there for several years. I would leave and go on these missions, and I'd come back just exhausted from, going into these combat zones and dealing with, the craziness that's out there, as you can imagine. And as I'm driving up, I could feel where I penetrated and came into that vortexual vibrational field, and it was like, it's like get into like a very relaxing warm bath, where you just relax. And it's kind of, I had that over and over again when I would come into Sedona, and I would stay there, regenerate, recuperate, and then go back out and do it again. So it was a good experience. It was a good time.
This
Well-
is a really high vibrational vortex, all of Sedona. And living here, I notice when I leave the vortex, I feel like I drop in my vibrational energy. And I can't wait to get back into the vortex to be supercharged by this really high spinning frequency of love, light, energy. And also why I offer vortex journeys during the Sedona Ascension retreats. All of Sedona is a vortex, but there are certain places in Sedona, as you well know, Michael and Alan and Joan, where the energy is more intensified. And geologists and engineers have spent decades actually measuring these vortexes to determine where ones are spinning at the highest velocity and even the direction that they spin, whether they're a male or a female vortex. I offer vortex journeys out on the land during spiritual retreats here in Sedona, and I just love taking people into those spinning vortexes and tuning them in to the vortex. And so that's going to be part of our event as well.
Michael, that's how I describe leaving Sedona. It's like getting out of a warm bath. It's like you're in the vortex. And could it be, I mean, what's your opinion that Sedona might actually be a place already having ascended to a, let's say, fifth dimensional consciousness and space? What do you think?
Well,
I totally believe that. Yeah. And that's beautiful, Suzanne, you talk about that, because there are masculine and feminine vortexes there in Sedona. Very unusual. And it's you'll get a vortex in certain areas like Egypt or Mount Sinai, but they're different energies. They're either masculine or feminine. So that's the uniqueness about Sedona. It has both of those, masculine and feminine. So you need someone really that's an expert, because you'll say, go to airport, vortex, but it's not always in the same spot. So you can wander around and not hit it. But if someone's trained, like for me, I would feel it. So I'd move until I felt it and get drawn to, where it was, and then sit in that energy. So, someone that's not skilled in, feeling the energies, it's a little bit more difficult. So it's great to have someone guide you. So that's beautiful. You offer that, Suzanne. So that's one of the things that I loved about that area. It's one of the things I love about traveling in other areas around the world, and finding those spots, like Machu Picchu, beautiful energies there. And once you tap into it and you're in those energies, it uplifts you. And it takes your consciousness to a different level. And sometimes, like we were talking about before, past lifetimes, you actually activate, because I remember going to Egypt, and I was like, oh, Egypt, that's a cool place. And then I was like, oh, I've been here. And then after I started doing the research, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a pharaoh there, I've been a warrior there, all these crazy things. So that's another thing that's beautiful about coming in these months. So yes, definitely on a higher vibrational scale. It's almost like it's almost not in the 3D anymore.
Right.
So that's what we're describing. When you come into that energy field, that vortexual energy field, it's not really of this reality so much anymore. It's on a higher vibrational field. So that's another thing that I was talking about. It helped me recharge, from being exhausted from going to combat zones and using those energy fields and leaving them. A lot of times I would leave my energy fields, in some places where I left my energy field, vortexual energy, love vibrational field, which I anchored into the ground. There's been no attacks there for over a decade. And before that, had been attacks there like consistently. So Pakistan was horrific for attacks. But I went to all the cities where there were attacks and left vortexual energy that I helped, refine there in Sedona. So yeah.
So this is part of your work then. You also travel around, and when you and Tracy are around the globe, you anchor in love vibrations with Michael Jaco. There's something very powerful to me as I feel into this energy of this love vibration, because that's what we all ascribe to. So to be on a battlefield or in that moment of choice, we're just reflecting love. We know that love can conquer all. So I really like that. I think that's great. The other thing about Sedona that I love is that each of those vortexes carries the ancient energies of ancient souls and ancient beings and ancient masters. And when I go there, I end up painting these inner cities with masters everywhere. I think including ourselves. I think we get called back to allow the master in us to come out. And that's what this ascension process is for me, that we all get to step into that higher vortex. So
Yeah.
I love it.
Maybe, Michael, on the day that you're not offering your workshop, you might want to be part of our vortex journey, going out into one of these sacred vortex sites and give us a little insight. You tuned into the vortex and how you use your own love vibration to create a vortex.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Thanks for offering. I would jump at that chance. So I remember going to some of these places where vortexes were, and there'd been fires and so forth. So I'd walk through these areas. I remember I was doing it with my son one time, and there was all this burned area, and I was thinking, why am I going this? Why am I still going this direction? So we talk about how the environment sometimes is imprinted. So I remember coming up and we broke this one level where there was no more fire. The fire had broke, and I was like, why did it stop here? So I'm like feeling, I'm like, I look up, and there in the face of like this hill was an Indian face, and I was like, he stopped it. So someone had imprinted, like I talked about, had imprinted his ability, and over time it had kind of gone into the face of the mountain there, and it was beautiful. So I was like, wow, that shaman energy energy is very, very powerful. So I remember going to many places like the peaks and so forth, and placing crystals and stuff like that, praying over them, meditating over them, and leaving those crystals there when I felt that particular energy. So it's Thunder Mountain right there in Sedona. I climbed that, and I had unbelievable experiences going up that mountain, and it was just before Easter. And I'm like climbing. I went the wrong direction one time and tried to go up this one chimney, climb up this one chimney. I have a climbing experience, and it got real brittle. And then I remember seeing someone fall and bust their head and die. I was like, wow, that's weird. Okay, that's a good sign. I don't know if that's real. So I climbed back down, and I hadn't seen it when I was going up, but there was a cross that was there. And I would find out later that unfortunately a young man had been, actually a young boy, I think was 16 or something, had been climbing there, had fallen and died. So I was like, wow, that's weird. And so I kept going around the mountain. I was like, where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to, because I'm going to the top of this mountain, and I'm going to stay there overnight. And so I'm getting scratched up as I'm going through the brush. I'm like, what is going on? I never get scratched. And so I did that one night, and a shaman woman came to me during the night, and I had words with her, and we spoke and stuff like that. She passed energy and stuff to me. So as I'm walking back down, I'm like in total la la land. I'm like almost floating back down the mountain. Nothing touches me. It's easy walk down. I go all the way back home, and we're going to go visit friends and family for Easter. And then it just hit me, boom, because I had got scratched around my head, all around my head, and it was still scratched. And I was like, It's like Jesus, you know. So I was like having all these different things were coming through in Sedona. So you have amazing experiences in Sedona, especially when you're around the vortexual mountains and so forth. It's pretty impressive energy. It's going to inform you how you need to be informed, you know, because everyone may come with the preconceived idea of what you're going to experience. Sedona is beautiful that way. You're going to experience things the way you're meant to.
But you know, this whole conversation is about really how we're tapping into these multiple dimensions of awareness. And this is like the path of the ascension is what you're bringing in, Michael, is this ability and the recognition, you know, and talking about it activates other people saying, oh yeah, I had a glimpse of that. And this, so that's what I think is great about we're all coming together like this. So thank you
Right.
for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's interesting. You don't have to be born an intuitive to learn these gifts and to develop these skills to do this kind of work. And a lot of people, because I teach intuition too, and there's a myth that you have to be born with these gifts, and you really don't have to. You have to have that willingness to train.
Right. And, you know, a question in the chat was based on the work of Ian Stevenson. When you looked at that, I think it was Civil War general who had what was your, do you have a beauty mark at the place where that guy was wounded? That was what Ian Stevenson discovered in reincarnation cases. Have you looked into that at all?
I have something better. So
Oh, yeah?
my kneecap was shattered, and it's the same kneecap where he had injury. And also my shoulder, he was hitting the shoulder. My shoulder, this shoulder had problems. That's where he was hit. He had 3 wounds. They were fleshy wounds. So they put him in he had his, because he was a general, he had his own little cabin, and a doctor was attending to him. So when I did a remote view back into that time, I was like, why did he die? And so something didn't fit. So I went in and I saw a doctor injected me. And I was like, the words came out to me, what the hell did you just injected me? And the doctor like looked at me like, ha ha ha, kind of like that. And then left. And I died of malaria. He injected malaria into me. So they said that he swooned from his injuries, heat exhaustion and stuff like that. Well, those are some of the symptoms that come from malaria. So I did more research, and I saw that all the way back in New Orleans, when the Union soldiers would come through and free the slaves that would follow the Union Army. So they had to care for them and stuff like that. And they're like, you know, we're an army. We don't do. You guys need to leave, and they wouldn't leave because they had nowhere to go. Because their former homes, if you call them that, the slave quarters were gone. So here they're now free, and they don't know what to do. So they're following the Union Army's feeding them. And then I saw in history there was a massive die-off of slaves, and they called in a doctor, and the doctor shows up, and still people were dying, and he saw the injection marks where they had been injected. And they all died in the area. So this bio warfare goes on a long time. So,
Wow.
so I had past life memory. That's a beautiful thing, if you want to call it that, of the past life memories. And when I do my past life presentation, I go into a lot of those different things. Not only does it inform you, but actually can make an imprint into the consciousness of the world. Because I had a Richard III lifetime when I was in Bahrain. It kept coming to me. You're Richard III. I'm like, I looked in history. He's like, he was a bad guy. That doesn't fit. So, yeah, basically what happened is Shakespeare was paid to make him look bad because the people that came in, Henry VII and then Henry VIII and so forth, they were illegitimate. So they had to like make everybody else before them look bad. So this is why we're here, because those guys were bad, and that wasn't the case. And so I was like, I don't think so. And then in Sedona, I come home to Sedona, and my wife Tracy we had bought a treadmill, so she's having me put it together. And remember, I said I went to all of the peaks and I put crystals. So crystals were like aiming at my house, and it was a very, very nice house. So I'm setting up the treadmill, and I felt this pain in my back, and I'm like, and I fell, and I felt 11 stab wounds coming into me because I'd been denying Richard III was one of my past lifetimes. And I'm like, okay, I was Richard III, and then the pain stopped. The next day, they found Richard III's body that had been missing for like over 500 years. So that opened up a whole new thing where, yeah, they found out that Richard III was not bad, that they'd made him to be bad for those reasons I was brought up. So, when we do these past life discoveries, not only will it have an impact in our own lives, but it can have an impact in the actual consciousness and what's going on in the world. Because there were a lot of other things. I've had people come on and talk to me about how soccer teams that were like, nobody that were in that area where Richard III, they took him back to, I think he was from York. They took his body back there, and this one soccer team, their football, our soccer, was very successful after that. And they were like nobodies, and they ended up winning the championship. So a lot of different things, happened in consciousness and the realities that go forward when we make these discoveries sometimes.
So in Sedona, when you do the workshop, are you going to lead each person back to their own individual life, or how do you that go? How do you work that?
Yeah, I we'll talk about it. I answer questions. I give people my experiences so they can know, hey, there's somebody else here that's had these. Maybe a lot of people have already, tapped into it to a certain extent. Then I do a meditation and have people go back in a meditation because when you do these past life regressions, as I found out, it's usually what is blocking you, kind of like that Richard III lifetime. When I discovered, through that process, Richard III lifetime, then all these other lifetimes went just started pouring through. It was like a dam burst. So we'll have things within our lives which will cause a block a lot of times. And going into a past lifetime will, unleash whatever's blocking your consciousness in this lifetime. So that's one of the great things. So I'll lead the meditation, and usually people will go into what they need to learn or have discovery, like, past lifetime is, they'll feel real about it, and then they'll go home and they'll start to make all these discoveries like I was talking about. And that's a beauty of doing that. So same thing, you're in Sedona, beautiful energy, vortexual energy, you're in a vortexual energy zone where spontaneous things can come through for you. Yeah. And then you're being led in a meditation. I've had people say, your meditation is the greatest. And so it's not me, I'm just a conduit. So same thing, I tap into those energies of Sedona. When I talk, last time I gave a talk at Suzanne's show, I don't have a preconceived idea what I'm going to, well, kind of, I know what I'm going to talk about, but what I say is what that audience needs. So I just let myself go and just reveal. And that's the way it is when I do, the past lifetime stuff. So it'll a lot of times, open people up. So the last one I did there in Sedona, the first one that I did in Sedona, and it was absolutely amazing. I mean, it was sold out like boom, like that. So I told Suzanne, you need a bigger place. So,
right.
You are the one who inspired that.
It's like, she's gonna go big.
We were sold out.
I invited Michael back this year, and he looked at me and said, you need to get a bigger place.
I would have said it too. I would have said it too. And now you have all the greats. We have George Norrie coming, and Michael Jaco, and Billy Carson. We just have a great conference. And I think what I love the best is the intimate energy that you create. So, Michael, this has been great to have you on the show. I kind of wish the conference was this weekend. I'm really primed and ready to look into it. I really am excited about your work because I teach intuition too, and I get, why women are seeking that instant really being able to hone your skills so you can trust your intuition every single time, no matter what. And so you've done such great work in leading the way.
Let me ask one more question I just had that I've been thinking about is that Luis Elizondo, you know who he is, he talked about using remote viewing in military settings. Did you ever work with him or train with him? No.
No, I never trained with him. But
Okay.
on what Joan was saying, yes, women are actually leading the way, I believe, because the
Right.
intuition is where we're going, and so they're doing it. I think they're doing an amazing job. We're seeing the mama bears out there doing their thing. So the daddy bears are getting on board, but yeah, it's women that are leading this, and intuition is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. Well, good. We're lucky to have you at the conference, Michael. We're happy. Any last words, Suzanne?
Well, I'm going to add the Michael Jaco tour to our website so that those people who sign up for the tour experiences will know which one that Michael Jaco is going to be guiding. It'll be on the day that he's not offering a workshop. So I'll get that added right away so that your fans and followers can sign up for that. I'm so excited about adding that to our roster, Michael. That's going to be amazing.
Great
and
idea. Thank you.
Thunder Mountain, because I think you have a special connection with Thunder Mountain.
I may have to go. I have a very special connection with Thunder Mountain. I just know that dude was one of my friends way back when.
It's intense energy though, Thunder Mountain, but
yeah, it all is. So this is the ascension process.
Yes. I just want to say, Michael, thank you, because I get the place you've dropped into, that kind of peace, and that's what you emanate. And, you know, it's even more now, I feel it, than it was last year or 2 years ago, whenever we met. It's like you've dropped into a deeper sense of that peace in my experience. Is that true? Do you feel like it's...
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely evolving. Thanks for that, Alan.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I see the same. I see the same in all of you. You know, it's we've all like progressed. It's beautiful. I love to see you guys. So yeah, this was a great show. You guys, you know, asked amazing questions. It's like I'm with family. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes. Family.
Bless you, Michael.
Thanks.
Our family's coming together in Sedona, March 17th to the 19th, 2023. So be part of that gathering, because it will be next level. There it is. There it is.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. We see you in Sedona. We love you. You're an example of a divine mask, you know, like the divine spiritual warrior male love bug. Like love, you know, just like to have both sides is what we strive for. So guys, you are so in for a treat meeting Michael, and I just love you to the moon and back already. So.
Love you guys.
Angels.
Great experience.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Suzanne, for putting this together. Thank you, Joan. Always fun to be out of this world with you and into this world. So we'll be doing more. We have more interviews coming up with the rest of the crew there at the Sedona retreat.
And I look forward to setting up just a three-way chat so that each of us can sort of share our background and hear how we got to where we're at today and why we do what we do and what we do and what we're going to be offering ourselves. Sedona.
Let's do that next week or the week after. Let's definitely do that. Yeah.
Let's do it. Get it scheduled.
I love it.
For tuning in.
Interviewing ourselves, kind of. We can even suggest the questions to ask ourselves. It will be perfect. I love all of you guys. I want to thank our sponsor, by the way, portaltoascension.org. Check out all of the thousands of hours of free content on that site.
And thanks everyone for the chat. We had a great
Oh my God, a magnificent chat. You guys are just wonderful. Check out New Realities TV, Joan of Angels TV, Suzanne Ross and her transformational work as well. And we will see you all next week. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.